When I see the plight of families living in poverty, I am always reminded of the struggles I had to overcome in my journey towards success. This is in part what compelled me to start Joy Junction, New Mexico's largest emergency homeless shelter. It provides a hand up for those unable to adequately provide for their family. That includes those who have lost their job, people suffering from PTSD and mental health challenges, as well as people working through their addiction and on the difficult road to recovery. But my life wasn't always like this. Back in the early 1980s, I was homeless myself. It was a miserable experience, and I spent a few weeks living in the basement of a friend's apartment.
Well, yeah, I was brought up in Bournemouth, England, in a typical middle class, sort of middle to upper middle class folks with my mom and dad. And you know what? I didn't know the gospel. And this is so important to know. We always think that with Christian music and stores that sell books and Bibles, everybody knows the gospel. But I didn't. I got a copy of Good News for Modern Man. For the first time in my life, I prayed. I sat in my parents' front living room in Bournemouth, England at the end of January 1976, reading the beginning of Luke, praying as I went through. The only supernatural experience I've ever had, never had one since then, and it was almost like the type or the print on every page became like 6 feet high. And so I guess I need to say, Jesus, I'm a sinner, come and save me and come into my life, and that's how I got saved. Over the next few months, I developed an increasing interest in all things God and all things Jesus and His Word. I'm thinking, what if God's calling me to go to America and to be in full-time ministry? And arrived in Miami, Florida back in 1978 with $50 in my pocket, a one-way ticket, a visa upon which I couldn't work. So at the end of January 1982, I was on the border of New Mexico and Texas. And I had $12, $12 left on me in money. Opposite me was a motel with a light. So clean rooms, lights, whatever, TV, $14. And this is an issue that's faced by the homeless all around Albuquerque every day. You almost have enough money for a burger. You almost have enough money for a room. It's almost, or if I could, if I hadn't, if I could.
Given his situation, alone and broke in a strange country, it was hard to see the Lord's hand in his life back then. He had feared becoming homeless. That fear invaded his dreams and woke him up when his heart raced and pounded. Now he was just another homeless person on the road. What lay ahead? He had heard that God has a plan for each of our lives. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." But it would be a long time before he knew what new promised land was in store for him.
As hard as these lessons were to learn, my homeless experiences would really help shape the ministry of Joy Junction. Eventually, thanks to the grace of God, we acquired the 52-acre property we now call home. And over time, a long time it seems sometimes, our ministry grew rapidly, and so did the income as it climbed to what is now an annual budget of about $5 million, none of which is from government sources. That people become homeless for a variety of reasons. They include financial issues caused by lack of a job, drug and alcohol addiction, mental health challenges, domestic violence, and post-traumatic stress syndrome, or PTSD, often causing an inability to be around a large number of people. The initial answer to homelessness is a community discussion. Yes, a community discussion that realizes we all have a responsibility to help the less fortunate among us. So who are the homeless? While Joy Junction is in the South Valley and thus far removed from the concentration of other assistance for the homeless, our van services continually extend to downtown Albuquerque. Did you know we also make regular patrols through downtown during the night, like between 12 and 5 or 1 and 5 in the morning, to see if anyone there wants a place to stay and to drop off sack lunches and a bottle of water, and sometimes a Bible if we have one. We also wanted a mobile feeding unit, or meal wagon, or lunch wagon as it's sometimes called, where we could provide a hot meal, sack lunches, a beverage, and other important things when available, like hygiene items, blankets, coats, jackets, and Bibles. The plan was for the wagon to visit areas frequented by the homeless and to provide a lifeline in the form of food, drink, and prayer. This lifeline of hope will let those using our services know someone cares for them. So about 7 years ago, we had published something in a newsletter, and we expressed the desire to have a mobile feeding unit for Joy Junction. While we keep extremely busy and active with our South Valley facility, that's basically, and we feed 10,000 meals a month plus there in the valley, we wanted to go outside the walls and the confines of Joy Junction to meet a community need. It may be a surprise to some people, but not a surprise to us. A number of people in Albuquerque really have to face almost like a daily choice in between having a place to stay or eating a meal. And we wanted to take away that choice, or negative choice, from them. There are, again, some people that can't stay or can't go to a mission, can't go to a meal site or a soup kitchen. They just don't feel good about doing it, or maybe they have issues such as post-traumatic stress syndrome, bipolar, schizophrenic, other issues, which mean they don't feel comfortable being around a lot of people. So they stay in a hotel, stay in a motel, and we wanted to be able to feed some of these people, feed some of these folks, and also establish a relationship with them. So the Lifeline of Hope is out on the streets of Albuquerque for about 4 hours a day, 7 days a week, and we feed a hot meal. We're licensed by the Bernalillo County Health Department to do so. Again, we feed a hot meal, and that may range from a taco, tamale, burrito, hamburger, soup, rice, or so on, and beans for right then. And then for later, a meal that they can stow, maybe for later on that night, maybe under a bridge or in the motel room. That would be basically a cup of ramen noodles, maybe with a granola bar, or perhaps an apple, orange, or so on, snacks. And also, if we have them, we also give out personal hygiene items. We give out blankets, jackets, coats. And again, when we have them, we give out Bibles. And again, all this is basically to be what we can, to be whatsoever we can to the people in need. Rather than waiting for the need to come to us, we want to go to the need. We never want to duplicate services that are available already, but we do want to find a niche or a niche and to take care of that particular niche. And the issue of hunger in Albuquerque in particular, in New Mexico in general, shows no signs of going down. Just imagine that, for myself, if I feel hungry, I grab something to eat before going to bed. If I want a drink, I grab some tea or coffee before going to bed, or in the morning or in the day, if we feel hungry or thirsty in the day. And some of these things that we don't think about doing. Again, if we feel hungry, we eat. Whatever our human need is, many of these human needs we take for granted, and we don't think about fulfilling them. But for the homeless, for those who live maybe in a park, under a tunnel, on the street, it becomes an entirely different matter. So folks, just think, again, if everything that we take for granted, you couldn't take for granted anymore. If when you wanted a Coke or a Pepsi or a glass of iced tea, you couldn't just go out and get it. You had to wait for somebody to come by, or you couldn't do it. Or you had to stand out in the streets and panhandle, say. It will put an entirely different perspective on the matter. And like, say, at night, we rely on the comfort, or we look forward to the comfort of a nice warm bed, a mattress, and we look forward to being safe. But just picture if you had to sleep on the streets and maybe without a blanket or without a mat. Again, when we have them, we give out blankets and sleeping bags and so on. So again, there's a number of facets to our outreach. Again, and the Lifeline is the very first part. We're making sure that the homeless on the streets are doing our best to make sure that the homeless on the streets not only stay safe, but stay alive. During that period of meeting basic human needs, we're hoping to establish a relationship with them, so that if in the event some of them do get to a stage where they feel like they're able to come and stay with us, or maybe another mission in Albuquerque, they'll feel comfortable about doing so because they will establish that basic human contact with us. And so the fact of the hunger in Albuquerque is very sad, but again, we feel very happy that even though we don't like hunger, and we are literally ending hunger one meal at a time and ending homelessness one meal at a time, we're extremely happy because we are out there to meet that need and to give some relief and to give some dignity and to give some hope to those for whom hope is not an everyday occurrence. Again, we call it the Lifeline of Hope, that particular name, for a very specific reason. So many of those people on the streets, maybe who are living in the throes of addiction, maybe alcohol addiction or drug addiction, they're doing so because they have no hope. I had a guy text me the other day, or write me, and he said, addiction is a choice. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I'm only thinking, dude, addiction is a choice? Try telling that to the addicts who are out there, that addiction is a choice. Try telling that to the guy who was so desperate for his poison of choice on Sunday morning. He mixes a particularly potent malt beer and mixes that beer with mouthwash and liquor, because he can't wait for the packaged liquor store to open. And you're telling him addiction is a choice. Addiction is not a choice. And basically what happens, maybe the first drink is a choice. Maybe the first hit is a choice. Maybe the first injection of heroin is a choice. You think, and people do that. Yes, is it a sin? Is it bad? For sure. But who am I to judge him? I never would. Because people turn to excess use of alcohol, or turn to usage, of illegal drugs, or turn to overusage of prescription meds to dull the pain, to dull the misery, and to dull the hell that is their lives. So I feel very uncomfortable with people judging them. But then after one or two hits, after 2 or 3 or 6 too many drinks, then it turns into an addiction. And believe me, addiction is not a choice. And I believe our task, our job as members of the Albuquerque community, and as a mission, as an agency, a church that takes care of the needy, is to bring some hope and to bring some dignity back into these suffering lives. And literally, out on the Lifeline of Hope, to be a lifeline of hope to those who need a smidgen of hope. Food, a handshake, a smile, just achieving contact with your eyes can mean all the difference, literally, for some people between life and death. We're headed east now, towards the East Mountains. We're going to a local park on Lomas and Eubank, frequented by the homeless. It is the only park in Albuquerque, as far as I know, that has an open container policy, where literally you can take an open container of alcohol, not a bottle, but a can, maybe a beer. And because of that, some of the homeless like to hang out there, and there's a regular stop for the Lifeline of Hope also. It has been for some time. And again, a number of the homeless hang out there, but we feed literally all the way east to Tramway and Central, and back behind us on the west to the West Mesa every Monday, or all of our stops, or most of our stops, we do 7 days a week, I believe, except for the Pajarito Mesa, of course, on the west, which we only go out there one time a week on Mondays. The Pajarito Mesa stop is very rewarding also because we feed a number of children as they come off the school bus. But again, all over Albuquerque, east to west, west to east, and of course a number of points between, also up and down Route 66, we feed to a number of the low-income people living in the low-rent motels. Of course, when you think of a motel, you think of stuff like toilet paper, hygiene items, shampoo, conditioner, but if they're still the same as they were, most of the hotels frequented by Lifeline of Hope clients, if you were to get the items we think of as taken for granted in a motel, like shampoo and conditioner, these are not provided. In fact, from a few years ago, I noticed 1 or 2 of the motels even made toilet paper an extra. So literally just think you get maybe a rate of $30 or $40 a night, but it doesn't include some of the items we don't even think twice of. If we were to go and check into a motel, well, for me, if there was no coffee, I'd complain also, but if there was no toilet paper, no shampoo, we just think, well, what's wrong with the hotel? But these motels do serve a need, and again, these are some of the folks that stay at these motels. These are folks that don't fit into the confines of a mission like ours, and these are folks that, for whatever reason, again, can't stay with us. When we first began, we would let homeless people who had a pet a dog, come in with that dog. We didn't want to separate somebody who became homeless from we didn't want to separate somebody who became homeless from their family pet, because obviously being homeless is bad enough as it is without the tragedy of losing a family pet also. But a couple of years or a few years after we did that, the local authorities decided we couldn't take pets anymore. And so it's sad, but again, if you become homeless and have a pet, we're unable to accommodate you unless it happens to be a service animal. So a dog like this, who is very attached to their owners, as you can see, they would not be able to stay with us at Joy Junction. We understand there are legal reasons, financial reasons, insurance reasons for doing that, but I think sometimes people think also, oh geez, you know, how does that homeless man or woman have a dog? You know what, when you've lost everything, sometimes that canine friend, you know, the family friend, the pet, the dog, can be the only piece of security. You can feel like he's your only friend. He's the one person or the one thing you hang on to. So again, this sort of doubles up the issue. You become homeless and you can't take your pet with you. Or if you're homeless, you can't come in to stay at us when you have a pet. So the only resource of folks like staying out here with a dog or with dogs is the Lifeline of Hope. When we're going around town, apart from the Lifeline of Hope, we do carry McDonald's cards in the car. $5, which basically is enough for a hamburger, you know, some fries, and maybe a cup of coffee. We'll encourage the life, you know, of a panhandler, and also make sure we don't give them money too. Yes. Why don't we give them money? Okay, there's a reason. Obviously, I think all of our viewers will notice, you know, these 311 signs, the blue 311 signs put up by the city of Albuquerque around town. They were meant to discourage panhandling. They haven't. In fact, the local reporter observed the fact that many of the panhandlers panhandle directly under these signs. And we like to help panhandlers because while we hope that they will quit panhandling and get regular employment for a variety of reasons, you know, some of them can't, and we want to make sure, again, that they stay alive. We want to make relationships, because running a mission, a place for the homeless, it's all about cultivating a relationship, because some of these folks have no relationships. They've burnt bridges, and they've had bad relationships. People have taken advantage of them. But some of them are in the throes of addiction, and we feel comfortable. Giving, you know, a McDonald's card, because that can be traded for cash, but we don't feel comfortable giving cash for the most part. Again, that McDonald's card of $5 increments will enable them, again, to get a hamburger, fries, a cup of coffee. And literally, we feel responsible. We feel it's a godly thing to do. We feel it's a societally ethical thing, a responsible thing to do also. We literally want to spend our lives brightening the day and giving hope to those who have no hope. Again, the Lifeline of Hope, giving joy at the junction, Joy Junction, because I hear so many times, not as often as I used to, but oh, he wants to be homeless. Literally, nobody wants to be homeless. They may feel, once they have sunk down to that level, they may feel a total inability to get off the streets and back on their feet again. And literally, it's not as easy as getting a job. It's not as easy getting a job as you think. You have to have a place to stay. You have to be clean. You have to have a phone, maybe, a way for somebody to contact you. And I think sometimes people reduce the issue of homelessness to a bumper sticker solution. Again, if he wanted to, he could. All panhandlers are bums. All panhandlers are on the rip-off mode. No. Maybe you get bad panhandlers, you get bad homeless people, just like you get bad everybody. But, you know, to generalize and to stereotype everybody with that same moniker is sort of really, really sad and really unfortunate. But again, we don't want to give people money because it could quite possibly be used, you know, to buy alcohol or to buy drugs.
While our flagship service is to shelter and feed people, we also provide an array of services such as our Christ in Power Life Recovery Program, or SIP for short. SIP participants are taught the skills they need to re-enter and succeed in the workplace. But sometimes that's not quite as easy as you may think. They learn, for example, anger management, healthy eating habits, resume writing, and a variety of important coping mechanisms. According to one graduate of the program,
It has allowed us to see the Spirit of Jesus truly does exist through some human beings who have good intentions to help people who want to get their life back into focus and become reacquainted with Jesus Christ and God's blessings. People sometimes ask me if it's moral to mix religion with the delivery of services for the homeless. My response is absolutely. People sometimes gravitate towards excess use of alcohol and use of illegal drugs because of the despair they feel in their own lives. Admittedly, using alcohol and drugs helps them forget, at least for a while, the despair that they feel in their lives, but after a while, that first hit or that first drink becomes an addiction. Joy Junction has also developed an innovative program tailored for those needing less help than that offered by our Christ in Power Life Recovery Program. The Hand Up program, or HOP, we like acronyms, is a 6-month program designed for residents of Joy Junction who are stable enough to look for employment and housing. In addition to teaching participants how to actively look for employment and housing, HOP participants are required to volunteer for about 12 hours a week at Joy Junction. So you may be asking, after 30 plus years, what lies ahead? Well, the future of Joy Junction is looking bright, with numerous renovations occurring at our aging property. We recently upgraded the air conditioning at our main building, we replaced windows, we put in a new driveway also to help make visiting our facility a much less bumpy experience. A short-term goal, of course, includes an expanded kitchen. Our current facility, while fully licensed and functional, was never intended to turn out well over 16,000 meals. Just think about cooking all those meals for your family. Over 16,000 meals monthly. Our chef and his crew do a great job preparing balanced, nutritious, and attractively presented meals. But to do even better and keep up with what we believe will be an ever-increasing demand, expanded kitchen facilities are becoming a necessity, not a want but a must. In addition, what a blessing it would be to have an expanded play area outside for the many children who take refuge at Joy Junction with their parents. As I'm sure you know, play is important for child development, and with your prayers and ongoing support, we can offer so much more to our young guests. We are also working on installing a modest apartment complex as the Lord provides the resources. We would also like to add a computer lab for our guests. Computers are essential today. This will also help our guests learn new technology to help them succeed in the workforce. We are also open to the possibility of expanding the concepts and operating philosophy of Joy Junction to other communities around the United States, and that's exciting. Joy Junction's 30 plus years of operation are a direct result of the Lord's faithfulness and the efforts of God's people all along the way. Without their kindness, generosity, and interest in growing the kingdom, I have no idea where all the homeless people we help would be today, or myself either. Having said that, with the Lord as my guide and my wife Elma at my side, I look forward to the next 3 decades of helping the homeless, the hungry, the disenfranchised, and the marginalized here at Joy Junction in Albuquerque. I really hope you'll consider joining us.
It's always nice to go back and visit Joy Junction and volunteer my time along with my mother's time, because growing up they really provided a lot for us in terms of support and service. So it makes me really happy that I'm able to go back there and, help these kids, and it's hard not to see myself in them. So it's really fulfilling to go back to Joy Junction.
Thank you for watching. We hope you've been inspired by Jeremy and Elma's story and Joy Junction's ongoing mission to help the homeless and hungry here in Albuquerque. Joy Junction depends on your faithful support. So if this program has encouraged you to make a difference, please make a generous gift today to Joy Junction. Your donation of whatever size makes a difference.